This is the 57-inch Samsung Odyssey Neo G9. If you're trying to get one of these though, there's a lot of stuff that you need to know before you drop almost 2.5 racks on this thing. When I bought this last year, it retailed for $24.99. So I got a $50 Black Friday AAA membership that got me 30% off. But then I stacked a few coupon codes and referral codes that got me another discount on top of the Black Friday deal that Samsung already had. So I was able to get this for $12.32 plus tax. And they even threw in an extra 27-inch HD monitor for free. So I was like, yo, there's no way I'm not gonna get this deal. So I'm gonna break down what it's been really like to use this monitor for the past year and go over some key details that you need to know before and after you get this beast of a monitor. This is gonna be mainly about the 57-inch Neo G9, but I might compare a couple things to the 49-inch OLED monitor because I had that for a couple months too, and there's certain things that I might go over and compare it to that one. All right, let's get started with the design. The first thing you notice besides the size is the insane curve on this. This thing has a 1000 R curve that's a lot more aggressive than the 1800 R curve on the 49-inch OLED. So the lower this number, the more curved it is. So coming from two 27-inch monitors, this thing takes up my whole desk. This is like the IMAX of computer monitors. The gloss white on the back looks sick. This low-key looks like a Stormtrooper's work from home setup. We got RGB backlights, so if you put this thing close to your wall, you'll notice the colors glowing behind it. And then if you turn on the core sync, the lights actually sync with the colors on your screen. And then we have all the ports hidden behind this huge panel on the back, and there's also lights on the front. I've had this for a year now and it still looks amazing every time I look at it. The actual display itself is even more impressive. So regular 4K monitor is 3840 by 2160 at 16 by 9. And this is actually like two of those at 7680 by 2160 at 32 by 9. So this makes it a dual 4K, not an 8K. And this is a VA panel, so the colors aren't gonna be as accurate as an IPS panel for photo editors or graphic designers, but this is gonna be fine for gaming, movies, and most productivity. Compared to the 49-inch OLED, this is a quantum mini LED. The OLED obviously has better colors and contrast, but this monitor uses local dimming, so with 2,392 local dimming zones, this still has super good contrast when it comes to movies and games. And even if you're worried about input lag, there's a lot of options to adjust this if you're worried about even the smallest input lag for competitive games or blooming when you're using it for productivity. Not gonna lie, I think the 49-inch OLED still is king when it comes to colors, contrast, and viewing angles. And it's definitely a noticeable difference, but I think this one still looks great because of how sharp it is, and the contrast is still up there because of the local dimming zones. Samsung states that it officially uses FreeSync Premium Pro, but you can turn on G-Sync in the NVIDIA control panel. This usually works fine for most games, but if you have issues, just turn it off during the games that you're having issues with. And you can see the glare on the OLED because that has a glossy screen and this one has a matte screen, so that's just like a preference. I don't mind that this one has a matte screen because my wife has her makeup desk behind me and this thing would reflect a lot of light if it was a glossy screen. I think the overall size and the curve of this monitor just gives it a much better experience than a multi-monitor setup, especially for productivity. Once you start using an ultra-wide monitor like this, it's a game changer because you realize how much stuff you can actually fit on this screen. You can have so many things open at once, like VS Code, browser windows, Chrome Inspector, music controls, messages, notes, calendar, whatever you want. And unlike dual monitor setups, there's no border down the middle, so you can put your main focus right there in the middle of your screen and put everything else around the sides. There's just a lot more flexibility when you don't have any borders going down the middle of your screen. You can use stuff like Windows, Power Toys or Fancy Zones to split up your screen, or there's even picture by picture and picture modes that let you have up to 3 inputs running at the same time. So I can have my PC, my Mac, and my PS5 all showing at the same time on this monitor. Or if I wanted to hook up my PC with dual inputs, like say I want to do a split screen, I can do HDMI and the display port going out to the monitor and then have my PS5 or something on the third part of the screen. There's adjustments in the picture and picture settings where you can pick how much space each window takes up, like if you want it, one screen to be bigger than the other two, or if you want them evenly and stuff like that, or if you just, whatever corner you want to set one input to. And then on the Mac, you can just use rectangle. That's like another way if you just use like the Mac by itself instead of having multiple inputs. For productivity, I think the 57-inch Odyssey feels a lot better than the 49-inch OLED. There's just a lot more vertical space to work with on this one. The 49-inch OLED just felt too narrow vertically, I think. With this, it's a lot easier to see more lines of code, Excel data, more chat, more window space. And you can see a lot more without scrolling. On my 16-inch MacBook Pro with VS Code, I can see 65 lines of code with the default zoom. On the Samsung Odyssey Neo G9, I can see 107 lines of code, but it's super small, so I hit the zoom button once and I can still see 88 lines of code. And then if I hit the zoom button one more time, I can still see 72 lines of code. And there's just more room to add more windows and apps on the screen. And if you edit videos, you know how much you need that extra space for video tracks and audio tracks, and still being able to see a bigger preview screen at the same time. And then as a streamer, you can have a bunch of things on your screen like OBS, browser window, chat, Twitch, your music app, or even have a window screen to play games and have everything else on the other side. One of the main things that really stands out on this monitor is the sharpness of the text. The first time I saw it, it reminded me of when I first saw text on a Retina display on an iPad or iPhone. At 7680 by 2160 with 140 ppi, the text looks super sharp on this monitor. And as a full stack developer, reading and writing code on this thing just hits different. This is one thing that stood out immediately compared to the 49-inch OLED. That said, if you do spend a lot of time reading white text on a black screen, you do start noticing a little bit of haloing around the white text. This is where you can turn down the local dimming if it bothers you. And there's some features that really help with productivity if you spend a lot of hours in front of the screen. This has features like auto dimming and blue light blocker. Like in the eye care settings, there's an eye saver mode, and then you can set this to off, low, or high. This decreases blue light to reduce eye strain. And then the adaptive picture adjusts the brightness depending on the lighting around your environment. This is clutch for anyone that codes or reads for a long time in front of the screen, and this is something that helped me get through a lot more hours of work, I think. Like, you know, when you get those projects that needed to be done like yesterday, the screen's able to get super bright. So with HDR on, you can get a peak brightness of 1000 nits. So 1000 nits is like similar to having the newest iPhone at max brightness with the auto brightness turned off. And then I like having a monitor or lamp like this to even out the brightness that's around me. And I feel like this helps me a lot when it comes to staring at the screen for a long period, or if there's a lot of bright stuff on the screen. Your eyes just adjust better, I think, when there's already light around your desk. And then since you don't have to worry about screen burn-in with this one like you do on an OLED, you don't have to worry about pixel shifting features. Like if you're someone that reads for a long time or if you code, that might bother some people with the auto pixel shifting, which, I mean, you can actually turn that off, but if you turn it off, then you have to worry about the screen burn-in at the same time. So this one, you don't have to worry about either one of those. And for all you day traders out there, you can have multiple charts on this monitor and have your controls, have all that vertical space to be able to buy and sell a lot easier, and just keeping track of everything that's on your watch list at the same time. I think this is really helpful for people that want to use a lot of technical charts and things like that. Like if you use Thinkorswim and use it for day trading or, you know, any kind of investments. This monitor is a productivity beast when it comes to devs, content creators, people that deal with a lot of data, do stock trading or day trading or crypto, or anyone that just needs the best way to multitask. All right, so for those of you that have a PC and a Mac, this thing has a built-in KVM switch, which easily lets you switch between the two without having to switch any connections for your keyboard or your mouse. It has two USB-A ports. One of them is a service port, which lets you update the monitor. So what I do is I keep a USB drive plugged into the service port for updates, and then I use a USB-A hub to plug in my keyboard, my mouse, and then my monitor light all straight to the monitor. Then there's two USB-B ports that let you send the signal back to your Mac or PC from your keyboard and mouse. And this switches automatically, so when I have the source set to DisplayPort, my keyboard and my mouse communicates with my PC, and then when I have it on the HDMI, it connects to my MacBook. This allows me to use my Mac and my PC without having to switch any connections with my keyboard and my mouse. And then the USB drive lets me update the monitor without having to take off that back panel, because I'm not gonna lie, that thing sucks to take off and put back on. I've already broke like a bunch of tabs on this thing. Also, this monitor doesn't have the Samsung's Tizen or Tizen whatever OS, which I actually like better because switching inputs on this thing is a lot quicker, I think, without having to go through a whole operating system to do it. I do wish this thing had the remote like the 49-inch OLED, because that made it a lot easier to just navigate through the menu and stuff like that. One thing you'll notice is that this has a 240 Hz refresh rate. This ain't gonna work with everything though. I have a MacBook Pro M3 Pro, which uses Thunderbolt, and it has an HDMI output. Using the HDMI 2.1 cable directly, I'm able to get 120 Hz with this at 7680 by 2160. At that resolution, using DisplayPort 2.1 to Thunderbolt 4, I'm only able to get 60 hertz because Thunderbolt 4 is limited to DisplayPort 1.4 to USB-C and 40 gigabits per second. So I can't even get the 240 hertz on the MacBook Pro M3 Pro. Thunderbolt 5 is supposed to handle DisplayPort 2.1 to USB-C, and it can do up to 120 gigabits per second. Apple's site shows that the MacBook Pro M4 Max uses Thunderbolt 5 and can do 2 displays at 4K at 3840 by 2160 at 240 hertz each. So this monitor is basically that, since it's dual 4K. So if you guys have a MacBook Pro M4 Max, let me know if this works, because I'm thinking if you have a DisplayPort 2.1 to Thunderbolt 5 cable that's at least 80 gigabits per second instead of the 40 gigabits, I feel like this should work for the 240 hertz. But let me know if you guys tried this. I don't have a MacBook like that because I'm not balling like that, but if you have this set up, just let me know in the comments, and if you can figure it out, I'll pin your comment and we'll figure this out together. It has to be at least the MacBook Pro M4 Max. Even the MacBook Pro M4 Pro won't have this setup. It's gonna have to be the Max. So I'm not sure if that'll work or not, but it looks like, according to the Apple website, the specs look like it does support it. But let me know if you guys have this set up. Let me know if it works in the comments. Now let's talk about the PC. On PC you can get 240 hertz at 7680 by 2160, but you need a graphics card that can support DisplayPort 2.1. Right now that's going to be an RTX 5000 series or an AMD 7000 or 9000 series. Those are the ones that are going to have DisplayPort 2.1 at the time of this video. You can also get 240 hertz with HDMI 2.1 on the HDMI 2 and 3 ports. Just remember, you got to set the refresh rate on the monitor settings before you do it in the Windows display settings. Otherwise, it's not going to work. When I had my RTX 3090, I was only able to get 120 hertz because that thing only had DisplayPort 1.4. And same thing with like the 4000 series, like a 4090, you're not going to be able to get the 240 hertz with that either. So the most you're going to be able to get is 120 hertz at 7680 by 2160, unless you lower the resolution down to like 5120 by 1440. So a lot of this sounds pretty great on this monitor, but what if you're somebody that doesn't need a code, doesn't need a day trade or any of that stuff? You just want to play Warzone, you want to play Marvel Rivals, or you just want a giant monitor to be able to play sim games like Forza Horizon or Flight Simulator. This is where it can get a little tricky. When I first got this, I had the RTX 3090, but at this resolution, your GPU's putting in extra work, because this is basically like running 2 4K monitors at the same time off of one PC. Not gonna lie, some games like Forza Horizon and Marvel Rivals ran pretty decent when I had the 3090, but it had a hard time keeping up with most games without bringing it down to medium or lower modes. I tried dropping the resolution down to 5120 by 1440, and this gave me like maybe 5 frames extra or something like that, 5 to 10 frames maybe, but there was a noticeable downgrade in the sharpness. Like games like Madden, I was running maybe 40 max, but it would dip down to 20 sometimes. Cyberpunk, like you couldn't even really play it unless you had it in the lower settings on Cyberpunk. So I upgraded to the 5070 Ti, and this helped a lot of games run smoother without having to bring it down to the lowest settings. Games like Call of Duty, like Black Ops 6 and Forza Horizon, these had like the best performance, I think. You can set it on the extreme modes on these games and it'll still run pretty smooth, and you'll get pretty decent frame rates for at this resolution, at the 7680 by 2160. On Forza Horizon, I'm getting 70-80 frames per second on extreme graphics quality with DLSS at quality. In games like Battlefield on ultra graphics and DLSS on ultra, frame gen turned off, I'm getting about 60 to 65 frames per second. It feels smooth when you're playing too. It's not just the frame rate that I'm looking at, but just how everything feels. On Cyberpunk ray tracing low DLSS quality, I'm getting around 30 frames per second. If I set it to DLSS performance, I get about low 40s. The best setting I found was setting it to high and then DLSS quality, which was about 55 frames per second for the most part. If you turn frame gen on 2x, it bumps it up to 80 frames per second, which it looks smoother, but it feels the same as if you had the frame gen turned off. To me, this felt the best when it came to a mix of performance and quality. This felt similar to playing it on PS5 Pro with the performance setting turned on. Barely noticeable blur moving around, but it seemed like it was natural, not from like the lack of performance. These are just numbers to see how much it can push the graphics with this monitor. But if you want like a smoother experience, you can just bump down the modes and then try out whatever you prefer. Now here's something that you need to know if you're gonna play games on the ultra wide. Not all games are gonna let you play in the 32:9 format, like Marvel Rivals for example. And if you're playing online shooters, you gotta adjust the HUD, because before I adjusted it, I'd literally have to move my head to each corner to see the map on the screen, and that split second I'm cooked, you know. So make sure if you guys play online shooters, like a lot of games that I played, they let you adjust the HUD so that way you can bring it in closer. You don't have to move your head around to see the map and, you know, all the other information that you need. The ultra wide though, it actually does let you see a lot more of the environment. So like if you're playing Warzone or, you know, whatever shooter, I can see 2 different corners at the same time, which I couldn't do with just like a regular, like a smaller size screen. With this one, I can stand in one corner. Like say if you I don't camp, you know, but I'm showing you this as an example. All you campers out there, you probably love this monitor because you can just sit there in this corner and then you'll be able to see both sides of the map, you know, both sides of the screen or whatever building that you're hiding in, and it just gives you that advantage, I think, of having, you know, like that extra visibility. One thing you can do if you want to play competitive games is if you go into the menu, there's different screen sizes that you can choose from, different aspect ratios. This will look weird on Windows, but you want to just mainly do this for the game. So you want to go into the game and match that aspect ratio and the resolution in the settings. This is going to be useful for people that want to play online shooters and competitive games that don't need all that extra space. And then for single player games, racing sims or flight sims, this monitor is freaking amazing. Forza Horizon on 7680 by 2160 looks insane. The 1000R curve makes it super immersive. The HDR 10 Plus and the display HDR 1000 makes everything pop with the colors and contrast. This is the experience that makes the 57-inch Neo G9 worth it. It low-key makes me want to buy all my PS5 games on PC just to be able to see them on this screen. And if your GPU just can't handle the resolution and you need to use this monitor for more than just gaming, like productivity and stuff, you can just use the picture-by-picture mode and then have your game on one side and then do, you know, whatever you need to on the other side. And you'll be able to run it a little bit smoother because it's going to be in a lower resolution, you know, when you're playing games. And this is something that I like to do sometimes for multitasking purposes. So I can play games on one side and then have the other side of the screen playing like YouTube or live stream, you know, or whatever else that I want to watch while I have the game loading and, you know, things like that. If you have your consoles hooked up to this, like your PS5 or your Switch, you're not going to be able to get the full width of this thing. It actually limits you to like the 16:9. So you're going to get the black bars on the side if you have your PS5 hooked up. You'll still have the VRR and ALLM and the HDR if you have just your one input, like say you just have your PS5 hooked up. But if you have it on the picture by picture, then you lose all those features. Like you're not going to be able to get HDR, VRR if you have it on the picture by picture mode. At the time of this video, you can plug in the PS5 to any port, but if you don't use the port that's capped at 120 Hertz, you have to make sure it's set to 120 Hertz in the menu to get the VRR to work. So let's talk about the issues now, because not gonna lie, I had a lot of issues with this. It's not all W's, you know, across the board. So let's talk about some of the L's we gotta hand out for this monitor. So it has all these ports, but it doesn't have a USB-C port like the 49-inch OLED does. So for a monitor that's over $2,000, that's a little disappointing, honestly. And then the stand is insane. This thing takes up my whole freaking desk, and it's adjustable, but honestly, I'd rather just get this monitor arm and save all that space, because it just takes space in like the most weird spots. Like you can't put an iPad on your desk unless you put it right in the middle or something. Or you can't, I don't know, man. It's just, I think it just takes up space in weird spots on your desk. So it makes it harder to put stuff on it. But yeah, if you can get a monitor arm, I waited a long time to get one of those because they're super expensive. But I got this one from Secret Labs, and this one's pretty dope because it's strong enough to hold a monitor like this, and it looks sick. I don't worry about like sagging or, you know, tilting and all that stuff. And it was easy to put on. You can even put this thing on by yourself. With the haloing, if you read a bunch of stuff, you'll start noticing this, and you can just turn off the local dimming, or you can adjust the brightness, and that'll help. It doesn't have built-in speakers. The 49-inch OLED has built-in speakers. I mean, if you have a monitor like this, I guess you should buy speakers, you know. It's still nice to have like built-in speakers. It's not a big deal. The panel tabs break off super easily. You got to be extra careful with this. I mean, honestly, I'm super careful with this, but it's still, I have like 3 tabs that are broken right now just putting this panel on and taking it off. So power cord on this thing is super short. It's barely longer than my iPhone charging cable. Unless you have an outlet right underneath the monitor, you're gonna have to run a surge protector like underneath your desk or something to get this thing to reach. And then the viewing angles aren't the greatest. If you're not like dead center, you're gonna see like the blacks turning gray. So this isn't a problem if you're right in the middle of the screen. So whoever's using it, it's still gonna look great, I think, for the most part. The 49-inch OLED has way better viewing angles. You can see this, you can see that screen from any angle, and people can watch you play your games and stuff, and it looks perfect no matter, like pretty much no matter where you're sitting. Where on this one, if someone's watching you play video games or whatever, then it's gonna look grayish. It's gonna look washed out from the sides, or you know, any other, pretty much any angle except for the center. This thing runs pretty warm, like not gonna lie, this thing has heat coming off the screen. I can feel the heat off the screen, and it makes the corner, this corner of my room, it gets warmer because of my monitor. My room's not like huge or anything, so it makes the room actually feel a little bit warmer too. It's not like too bad or anything, but you can definitely feel it, you know. And then I had some quality issues with this when I first bought it. This is actually a replacement from the first monitor that I bought. The first one had some flickering issues, and it actually had like 3 dead pixels. I had to call Samsung, and I asked them if I can add the warranty after I bought it. It was still within like the first week of buying the monitor, and they wouldn't let me add the warranty after the monitor was already ordered. They said I had to return that monitor and then reorder a new one. So that's what I ended up doing, which kind of sucked because I had to like send that monitor back and get this new one. But actually, you know what, honestly, that actually worked out because this one is flawless. I haven't had any issues with it. There's no dead pixels, there's no flickering or anything like that. So they have like some quality control issues. I feel like you kind of have to get, I don't know if you have to get lucky. It's like, I would just like make sure if you guys buy this, get the warranty, like get any kind of coverage that you can, because you don't want to be stuck with the monitor that has issues that are, you know, something that's this expensive. You don't want to be stuck with issues down the road and you can't do anything about it. So that's one thing, like if you buy this, get the warranty as soon as you order it, because they're not gonna let you add it afterwards, at least if you buy from Samsung. So yeah, it's like kind of sucks that it's almost like a lottery to see if your monitor is going to be good, you know. But this one has been flawless so far. If you get a monitor that's like this and you don't have any issues, like it's amazing. So final thoughts on this monitor. This monitor goes on sale randomly throughout the year. They give like a 30% discount for Samsung stuff if you order from the Samsung website through AAA. I got the AAA membership through a Black Friday deal, which was only like $50 for the membership for a year. I used that to get the extra 30% off on top of the Black Friday deal that Samsung already had, and then stacked the coupon codes, and then also stacked a referral code. So I got this down to, it was like $12.32 or something like that. And then it came with the free monitor, the free 27-inch HD monitor that Samsung offered for, you know, their Black Friday deal or whatever. So if you get this monitor, I think right now I think it's going for $22.99, but I would still wait to see if you can find any kind of deals. Like look on Reddit, some people have like coupon codes that they post, or referral codes, or look online for coupon codes, and you know, use that AAA discount if you can get. I don't know what their Black Friday deal is going to be this year, but it was only $50. It saved me 30%, which is a lot more than $50. I needed a monitor that can handle gaming, coding, and you know, all the productivity stuff like editing and all that stuff. Like I can do all this stuff at once if I wanted to on this one monitor. So if you can get this monitor for anywhere near the price that I got it for, like, and you need it for productivity and your, you know, gaming and stuff, your GPU can handle it, like I wouldn't even hesitate. Like this thing is absolute beast when it comes to productivity. It's a game changer literally, because it's gonna change the way you work and the way you play. You'll be more productive, your games are gonna feel more immersive, and it looks insane on your gaming desktop setup. It was definitely worth it for me. I'll drop a link to this monitor if you know, and everything that I used in this video. Make sure y'all sub and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Make sure you guys follow some of the tips that I mentioned in this video to get the best deal possible on this monitor. I wouldn't pay full price for this thing because there's a lot of deals that you can get out there. So I appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys at the next one. All right, peace.
Such a 90s baby though. If we grind it, then we grind it, man. I feel like Tony Hawk. And my homies got the iron, man. They feel like Tony Stark. And you better watch your head, cause it get wicked after dark.